For years, everyone thought Verizon had the best network, because they did. But now the best mobile network in the U.S. is T-Mobile. T-Mobile's network has the most advanced 5G, with more towers, and their signal reaches further than ever. So you can text and instant talk and say, "You won't believe where I am."
T-Mobile has the best mobile network in the U.S. based on analysis by Ookla of Speed Test Intelligence data 1H 2025. See T-Mobile.com/network.
This episode is supported by PrizePicks. PrizePicks now has early payouts. You now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. And with a new social feeds feature, you can share PrizePicks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code DFS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code DFS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast with your hosts, Kyle Borganoni and Matthew Betz.
Welcome live. We are in the future. January 2nd, 2026 here. Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Borganoni, and I am joined, as always, by Matthew New Year, New You Betz.
New year, new me. You know what, Kyle, this year I'm going to do? I'm going to play more DFS. More betting.
Oh, man.
More DFS. Less time with my family. You know, really set the year off right. You mentioned we were in the future. I thought this tweet was hilarious for anybody that is an NFC East fan that is not the Cowboys. This is from Giants Muse on Twitter. Time zones are crazy. And this is on New Year's Eve when this tweet came out. Australia is in 2026. America is still in 2025. Cowboys fans are stuck in 1996. That got me pretty good.
That's a good tweet. That's a good one. I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, we are recording this a little before 2026. So we're coming to you live in the future. Ourselves are stuck in the past. And by stuck in the past, what we mean is our company's off for the next couple of days, which is really, really great. It's the end of the year. And yet we still want to get you prepared for DFS, but we also need to give a couple of caveats of how we're recording this episode and this week in general. And obviously, if you're playing DFS, it's very different than your redraft leagues, which hopefully are wrapped up, your dynasty leagues. Because if you're playing week 18, I apologize for that. There are so many things that are going to change over the course of the next couple of days with this slate. So our best plays article, which comes out on Saturday, is what I want to make sure that you hold on to and you wait for it to come out, and you're waiting in 2026. If you want a new version of yourself, it's going to be that article that comes out on Saturday, because we have so many situations that are going to change.
For sure. Yeah, we're recording this before we have final news on minutes for starters or snaps for starters and, you know, all that sort of stuff. So as we record, we're going to do our best here to kind of break it down and kind of give our take on what we think is going to happen. But I guarantee you, there will be some news later Friday, Saturday, something like that comes out that will change projections, will change how you're playing cash, might change a bunch of stuff from roster percentage perspective. So this is an awesome week to kind of like take a reset week from if you've been grinding season long and all that sort of stuff. But you will, if you're playing DFS this weekend, you will want to absolutely be sure you are plugged in over the weekend, because this is one of those slates where information is key. And I think we're going to get a lot of stuff last minute on that. So again, we talked on Tuesday, right? I was like, hey, this week, great week to play some large field tournaments, probably dial back cash a little bit and let your hair down a little bit, because projections are not going to be accurate this week. There's just so much input volatility. You know, like, does Stafford and the starters play a quarter or the full game? Or, you know, does Drake May get pulled at halftime? Just stuff like that you can't really project from a median perspective. But if you understand the ranges of outcomes on teams and players this week, I think you'll have a pretty big edge. So definitely my advice to folks out there is to back off cash volume and ramp up some tournament exposure this week.
Before we jump into this week's slate, give you our cash picks, talk about a couple of games that we can feel pretty confident in, prop it like it's hot, slate breakers, all the things you know and love. Betz, I need to ask you, in 2026, what version are we getting? Anything on the radar resolution wise?
Well, I already hinted at it, Kyle. I'm going to play more DFS, spend less time with my family, really just be the best version of myself in the new year. No, in all seriousness, one of my buddies wants to do a half Ironman with me this year. And now I feel this public pressure to actually just say yes to it.
You have a lot of pressure on you. You could have just said, I'm going to, be a better father. Or
come on. I'm already the best dad on the block. Come on. I mean, what are we talking about here?
Compared to the other rival dads, yes.
Obviously. So we'll see if I do that. I need to decide because it's in June, so I need to start training if I'm actually going to do it. But I'm not a huge cardio distance guy. I've never swam for cardio. My running historically is 3 to 5 miles. I'm not running half marathons type stuff. So it would be a huge out of the box type thing for me to do. But I feel like I'm at the point in life where I want a new challenge. So I might do it. And
I like that.
If I do it, I'll share some insights along the way of how it goes. And when we reconvene after the playoffs in, we look towards March, April, then you guys will know for sure if I'm doing it because there will be several updates along the way. Hopefully no injuries, but several updates.
I bet you can get a couple of people who are listeners of the podcast to be a little training buddy, a little accountability saying, hey, let's go for this. You could go for that. My wife and I are doing Whole30, which I know you have done before. I think we've done it 4 or 5 times. If you don't know Whole30, basically no sugars, no carbs, no dairy.
No booze.
Yes, no booze. So we do that usually every January. I know Betz and Monica have done that a couple times. And then one challenge I'm doing with my family, which is, I think it's fun. I don't know when I presented it if they liked it, but for every day of the month of January, so it's 31 days, for every day you either donate or get rid of something. So January 1st, you give away 1 thing. January 2nd, you have to do 2, and then 3. So every day it's kind of building up. And part of it is you're just getting rid of stuff you don't need, in your closet or in your garage or stuff like that. At first, it's going to be really, really easy. But then over time, everybody in the family is going to get to a point where they got to give away 31 things.
How do you even do that?
Well, think about it with clothes. Clothes is pretty easy. Okay. There's certain pieces of clothing that you're just I don't need this, pair of socks. Okay. Well, that's nothing. I have my closet full of clothes and I'm going to be giving away some of this. The garage, you get a lot of stuff in the garage, man, that you do not need. We also have kids' toys and stuff like that. So that's a little challenge we're going to go for in January.
I'm just thinking about the last day in January. Collectively, between the 4 of you, you're going to have an abundant amount of items that you're giving away or donating. So keep me posted on that. I'm interested to see how that goes.
Yeah. I mean, the kids are going to have little toys where it's if they wanted to do a cheat code, they could be I'm giving away 31 Legos.
Yeah, that's true.
Lego pieces. But anyway, just trying to simplify. And then I'm just excited to read, man. Off-season Kyle and reading is amazing.
Sure.
You're not looking forward to reading?
I'm just picturing off-season Kyle, and while most of us, are getting outside.
Well, I'm going to be outside.
When it gets warmer, getting the yard work done, playing some golf, playing sports, doing whatever with our kids. Kyle is just inside, hasn't seen sunlight in weeks, charting Luther Burden's yards per route run against Matthew Golden's and reading a book. So if you don't know what Kyle's doing in the offseason, the best is when it gets to mid-June and you send me all these screenshots from spreadsheets you're working on. I'm like, dude, it's 75 and sunny outside. Please open the door. So you guys know where Kyle is. This guy just grinds, man. What a grinder.
All right, 2 things. 1, you don't really have to chart very much when it comes to Matthew Golden. There's not many routes.
Kyle.
There's not many routes there to go by. I mean, Luther Burden's got 200 something. Second, what Betz fails to realize, and what I need to make sure I give to the listeners of this podcast, is I'm going to be doing both of those things, my friend.
Reading outside.
Yes. And I will be getting outside. So I'm excited about 2026. Hopefully you are too. Our Discord is continually open. We're going to be going all throughout the playoffs, talking about all the different playoff slates. I mean, a week from now, we're going to be all right, wild card slate, let's go. And so we will still continue on a Friday podcast, but just moving to 1 podcast a week for the rest of the NFL playoffs, and then we take a short little break. But let's jump in, talk about Week 18 cash picks.
Straight cash, homie.
Okay, so we know that we can get down and dirty this week if we want to. And in fact, there is a temptation that if you were to build a cash lineup this week, if you like playing cash, you still want to be a part of the process, I get it. There's almost too much value that opens up. And so you have a problem where you're like, okay, where am I spending up? And so just from a top level perspective, I'm just going to say this. Spending up for a defense is probably something I'm going to be doing this week. Whether that's the Jaguars, it's the Texans, one of those teams, because I think they actually have a ceiling outcome that if you're paying like $2,000 for the Jets, it's just not there. But between the elite running backs, probably Jamar Chase, and an elite defense, like I still want to spend up for those options.
For sure. And I think when we get to, end of Friday, when we get final practice reports and final news, and Saturday when we get more information, it does kind of feel like a slate where it's basically going to be a pick 'em. Like salary cap is not going to be restrictive this week because we will have several cheap quarterbacks you could play. I think we'll have somewhere in the ballpark of like, depending on what happens, 2 to 6 like sub 5K running backs that are in play. And so then it's like, okay, well, if we have all those value options, you can spend up on Denver if you want against Trey Lance or Houston or whatever defense you like. And then you can jam in Jamar Chase pretty easily. Like, so those types of things I think are going to become pretty natural. So I will say it from a slate perspective, from a building standpoint, in cash, I think that's probably optimal, for as optimal as you can get for as much uncertainty as there is in Week 18. There also is going to be an opportunity to flip the build a little bit and not play these super cheap RBs and not spend up at defense, which I think a lot of the field is going to do. So just something to consider from a top-down perspective. But yeah, there's going to be plenty of value to go around in the slate. And usually throughout the year, we've been like scraping the bottom of the barrel when it comes to like wide receiver plays in the cheap end, where like the cheapest we usually go is like 4K maybe. And even that guy, you're like, I don't feel good about him. This week, I think we're going to have a lot of sub 5K options that you feel pretty good about from a routes perspective, and that will project decently well. So different dynamic than we're used to, but that is part of the fun of Week 18.
At quarterback, if you wanted to pay up for Trevor Lawrence because the Jaguars have the highest implied total of the week, you can do it because he's been awesome, right? This stretch of the last really 6 weeks, and then when we start looking at the fantasy playoffs, he was really, really good. The Jaguars have also been very pass heavy. You remember at the beginning of the year where it was like, Liam Cohen, are you trying to hide Trevor Lawrence? And then this stretch of them since the bye is basically, I think it's second in pass rate over expectation over the last 6 weeks. So Trevor Lawrence at 6.4 is probably on the high end, as that's probably as high as I would spend at quarterback for cash.
I think so. I mean, if you want to say Drake May comes out and throws for another, 250 plus and 3 touchdowns, I wouldn't be surprised by that. But I could also see starters getting pulled in the fourth quarter, right? So when you just start to like poke holes in certain spots, then maybe that's an argument you can make. But I think on this slate, that's probably the highest I would go with Trevor Lawrence. Real quick on the matchup too. In recent weeks, like over the last 6 weeks or so, the Titans have faced the highest pass rate over expectation on the other side of the ball. They've kind of become a pass funnel defense. And so, yeah, I think the game plan is going to be built around Trevor. He can run at the goal line. We saw that last week again. So I think Trevor's an awesome play if you don't want to dip your toes into these cheap, 4K quarterbacks, whether it's in cash or tournaments. I think you want some Trevor Lawrence, its exposure this week, just because that 30-point implied team total, like you said, by far highest on the slate.
Caleb Williams is 5,900 at home. The Bears are 3-point favorites. We'll talk about that game in a second, but Caleb's in a good spot. They've been letting him throw too a little bit more recently. And then on the lower end, I think Tyler Shuck is the easiest play based on he's been a top 10 quarterback 3 of the last 4 weeks. He's 5,300, so he's not priced up. It's in a dome, and that game is interesting. But your boy Tanner McKee, backup quarterback for the Eagles, is a temptation like no other for Week 18.
No, brother. Week 18 is Tanner McKee week. Last year, he got the start when they rested the starters. Taking on the Giants last year, he went 27 of 41 for 269 and 2 touchdowns. We think there's a really good chance we don't see A.J. Brown here. I think they could play Devonta Smith for a little bit, try to get him 1,000 yards and then get him out of there, or just not play him at all. They played Dallas Goedert last year, on Week 18. They also still played Jahan Dotson as like their wide receiver 1. So I do think you will see Tanner McKee to Jahan Dotson in play as a stack if you wanted to go cheap. Obviously, it's an awesome matchup against Washington. I do have concerns about game environment. Their team total obviously came down when we got that announcement. The game total came down. The Commanders obviously aren't starting Jane Daniels. They're not even starting Marcus Mariota. It's going to be Josh Johnson. So there's like game environment concerns overall, but I think Tanner McKee is like low-key pretty good for backup quarterback standards, and I think he'll have success here. The question for DFS becomes, does success mean 13 points and you didn't really need him in tournaments, or could he go for 20 and just smash his salary here? So that's the question, but obviously the matchup is beautiful.
Yeah, 4,500 is really, really tempting. And then just to mention Jahan Dotson in a revenge game, 3,800. Like, he's one of those guys this week you're like, well, I could see myself playing him.
He saw 11 targets last year in Week 18 when he was wide receiver 1.
It's there's the preseason heroes that we talk about. Tanner Hudson, for instance, tight end for the Bengals.
Hudson, man.
He's one of those dudes. The Week 18 bunch it's a different kind of crew.
It is. Jahan Dotson. Maybe Matthew Golden actually does something this week.
I actually have thought about Matthew Golden a couple of times.
Yeah, I think he's interesting this week.
They need to be somebody, like the wide receivers need to be somebody who, if they're resting the starters, they're good enough to see the field, and yet the team also wants to give them the snaps to play, 40, 50, snaps on the field.
Yeah, it's kind of a thin needle to thread.
Yes, exactly. So those are the quarterback plays we have as of this recording. At running back, if you want to play somebody who has basically been indestructible and unstoppable all year long, you can play Bijan Robinson. Did you see I shared earlier that he technically hasn't been injured this entire year? Like, he was on the injury report with an illness in Week 16, but he was a full practice. So really, he's not been on the injury report the entire year.
Dude, he's been so good this year. Kind of sidebar here. Obviously, we'll get best ball ADP and we'll get rankings up and everything when we turn the page. Do you think he's the 101 next year in ADP?
Ballers were having this discussion the other day, and between Bijan and Jamar Chase, I think it's going to be one of those two.
I could see it, especially if Tyler Algier leaves in free agency. I could see making
that little
the case,
boost of confidence.
A little boost for Bijan, not that you need it.
Yeah, I agree. Like, you don't need that to happen to justify him being the 101.
Yeah, he's been so good. And for context too, like, this is a huge milestone for him to try to reach. But he needs, I believe it's 255 total scrimmage yards this week to set the single season record, which currently Chris Johnson holds. So I don't think they're going into this game saying, let's get him the record. But if he's having a ceiling game and he's sitting at 190 or something in late in the third quarter, I could see them try to get it for him. So if you want to give a little extra boost there from a ceiling outcome perspective on Bijan this week, I think that's fair. But even not, just from a median perspective, I think they play it straight up here, and the same can't necessarily be said for some of the other high-priced running backs. So in cash, I really like Bijan this week.
Yeah, and you can play the game that me and my kids play whenever Bijan gets the ball, because it's a video game character. But here's what happens. If Bijan gets the ball, you just say, Bijan, baby, and you just kind of stay with that. That's just every time. All right, Bijan, baby.
I thought you say roll tide.
That's what my youngest son said.
Okay.
But I had to teach him the ways of Bijan, baby.
Got it. Dude, he has just looked unstoppable these last couple weeks. So good.
It was so fun. He'll be entering year 4. Him, Drake London, right? On the contract extension talk.
Kyle
along
Pitts.
With whatever else. Kyle Pitts, contract extension talk, It's just, you wrap up the boys, all the first round picks, bring them all back, bring back the front office. Just run it back, man. This team's going to be 8-9. They technically tied for the division.
That is, how some stuff happens with NFL teams late in the year that, from a team building perspective, you talk yourself into stuff that you really shouldn't. That feels like something that will happen, and then they're going to be like, we were almost 500.
1,000%.
Let's just do this again, and we'll get over the hump next year. Kind of like we've talked about that with the Bills with wide receiver. Their wide receiver room is kind of a joke. But if they win the Super Bowl this year, which they very well could, Brandon Beane's going to be like, we don't need wide receivers. We just won the Super Bowl. So these self-fulfilling prophecies sometimes happen, but I just think it's funny to think about. But we'll see. Tyler Shuckman on the other side. He'll have something to say about that.
It's also just that much more painful, sorry to bring this up, when you think, oh, wait, didn't this team lose to the Jets? Didn't this team lose to the Dolphins? Didn't this team lose to the Panthers twice? Like, just a lot of losses where you're like, gosh, how did they beat the Bills and Rams and then get steamrolled by these other teams?
So what you're saying is the Saints will roll here?
Probably. Tyler Shuck's playing awesome. All right, so other running back plays. We're waiting on Rams news. I said earlier in the week, I think Sean McVay's a liar. So we'll see if they play their starters, if it's Jarquez Hunter week, whatever it is. But Kyron would be on the radar if all their starters are a go. There also is a chance that we have to wait until after what happens on Saturday with the Seahawks and 49ers to find out what the Rams do. So you kind of have to stay plugged in there. But give me a list of the really, really cheap, and I mean like 5K or below guys that you could play this week at running back.
Oh, baby. All right. Buckle up, everybody. So Javonte Williams has been dealing with a stinger the last couple of weeks. He left the Christmas game early, which let Malik Davis go nuts against Washington.
I would love to play Malik Davis this week.
I mean, the matchup's obviously beautiful, too, against the Giants. So Malik Davis is in consideration. There's also been some rumblings about Jaden Blue being active in this game if they just want to get a look at him. So stay plugged in on Dallas news. I think we'll get one of these cheap running backs as an option against the Giants. Obviously, a really good matchup. James Cook. This is kind of weird with James Cook and the Bills. So there's a lot of things happening where, like, the Bills have a little something to play for this week, but not really. And historically, Sean McDermott has rested his starters. Now, they probably want to keep some level of continuity going here, but are they going to give James Cook, 20 touches? I'd be shocked. They have acknowledged that Jonathan Taylor is on the heels of James Cook for the rushing crown in terms of the most rushing yards in the league this year. They could see what Jonathan Taylor does earlier in the day and decide James Cook's workload based off that. If Cook can run away with this title with like 40 rushing yards and not have to worry about it, I think they pull him pretty quickly. Honestly, they should pull him quickly anyway, but I think that's what they do. And so my take on that is just monitor that news and situation, because I think Ray Davis would be an awesome play against the friggin' Jets at 4,900. And they want to win this game because it is the last game in the current stadium, which they've been in Buffalo for over 50 years. So there's a little bit of like hometown narrative-y type stuff, but at the same time, you got to think about the playoffs. So difficult situation in Buffalo. Just monitor that. For the Jets, Breece Hall picked up a knee injury last week. He kind of downplayed it, but at the same time, we know the deal. He does not want to be in New York. He's looking for a contract in free agency. He didn't practice Wednesday. Like, if he doesn't practice again later in the week, I think they just sit him or he opts to sit, and that would potentially open up Isaiah Davis. But there's a tricky thing here. He's in concussion protocol. So we need to figure out who's starting for the Jets, who could be playing against a bad Bills run defense or backups in Buffalo. So the Jets are a situation to monitor. And then for the Eagles, the way they played it last year when they sat Saquon is they actually split the workload pretty much down the middle with Will Shipley, and at the time, Kenneth Gainwell was on the roster. So I think you'll see some sort of split between Tank Bigsby and Will Shipley. Both guys are cheap, and I think both guys are really interesting this week. Again, in a good matchup against Washington.
Tank Bigsby is averaging 6 yards per carry. He's looked good in limited opportunities. So what you're telling me is that I'm going to be playing one of the Davis bros this week. Malik, Ray, Isaiah, one of the bros.
I think so, don't you?
Yeah, no, I want to. This is the temptation of backup running backs. I want to play these guys. I did see Malik Davis is on the injury report. He's listed as I.
Seems sus.
Did he get poked in the eye?
Maybe it was a Geno situation. He got punched in the locker room.
You think so?
It was Geno's jaw back in New York.
That's true. Yeah, he poked me in the eye. That's my that's my Waterboy quote of the day. So it's gonna be one of those guys. At wide receiver, we're probably gonna be playing Jamar Chase because it's all systems go for the Bengals. 8,500. Who cares that it's the Browns? Don't care. Nico Collins is 7K at home, 10-point favorites against the Colts, and Riley Leonard. Cool. I like that spot as well. I think the biggest question is, what do I do with the Lions this week? If they're going to play their starters between Gibbs, J-Mo, and Amon-Ra, who was not at practice on Wednesday, are you trying to fit in a Lion in your lineup?
Not necessarily, unless Amon-Ra is out. And if Amon-Ra is out, I think Jameson Williams is an awesome play. He is 6,700 on DraftKings. He's even better in terms of value on FanDuel, where he's only 7,200. So monitor Amon-Ra St. Brown. He entered last week with a knee injury, picked up, or but re-aggravated that knee injury on the last drive of the game last week. So I know Dan Campbell is a no-nonsense guy. We're playing to win, yada, yada. But it's like, dude, this is your franchise player. This game means nothing. It makes sense to me to sit him out, but Amon-Ra's tough and wants to play. And obviously Dan Campbell kind of has the same mindset. So I wouldn't be surprised if he played. But if he gets ruled out, Jameson Williams becomes an awesome play.
All right, other names we just want to briefly mention. Jacoby Myers at 5,600. We'll preview that game. The Bears guys, if Luther Burden is healthy, he will definitely be on the list and part of the group. Let's see, Trey Tucker at 4K is also going to be on the field. We mentioned earlier in our Routes Run League, he's a boss. And then anybody else you want to mention?
Yes, Marvin Harrison Jr. is already ruled out for Arizona, so we know what the deal is there. Michael Wilson is in play on both sites. He's taking on the Rams. Again, we tentatively think the starters will play at some point, but how much remains to be seen. So potentially Jacoby just chucking here for his final go-around as the starter this year without Marv. Michael Wilson seems like a nice play.
At tight end, I do think we're going to be able to spend down a little bit in cash this week. If it's Colston Loveland, you still got to wait on how the injury situation, sticks out. But 3,100, they just didn't raise his price tag very much. He looks really, really good. And then you have an interesting name here you want to throw out. Interesting punt.
The Schoon Man. And if you don't know who that is,
I was going to say, tell people.
Come on. Luke Schoonmaker is the Cowboys tight end that I am interested in playing this week. He's 2,800 against the Giants. The reason I'm bringing him up is because Jake Ferguson left last week's game with a calf injury. Again, nothing to play for. Why would you risk your starting tight end in this spot? So I think there's a decent chance we see Turd Ferg sit, which means the Schoon Man is super, super cheap and will be in play here against the Giants.
Yeah, we'll probably talk about if you can play McBride in our best plays and where you would fit him in because he's still in play. But in cash, you might be wanting to spend down here at tight end so you can pay up for Bijan and Chase and some of those other guys. At defense, quickly, we said earlier in the week you will have the cash to pay up for one of the elite spots. So if it's Denver against our boy Trey Lance, which, don't get me wrong, I'm going to play him in a lineup just to feel alive.
Oh, come on, dude. We're starting the new year off right. The only way to do that is play Trey Lance.
And then the Texans against Riley Leonard at home. They're both great spots.
Yeah, I don't think you can go wrong.
Okay. I think you can punt or go a little bit further down if you want to play like the Browns around 2,500. That's fine, but I think we will be paying up at defense this week. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Low carb, no carb, anti-inflammatory. There's a diet for every buzzword. At Anytime Fitness, our coaches use your body scan to help take the guesswork out of eating right. So you can forget the fads and stick to the science. Join Anytime Fitness today.
DSW's semi-annual sale is back. Take 50% off all clearance shoes in stores for a limited time. Literally every single clearance item at your designer shoe warehouse store is on sale right now. Sneakers, boots, dress shoes. If they're on the clearance racks, they're 50% off. So what are you waiting for? Don't sleep on these savings. Get to DSW ASAP. It's all or nothing, people. Shop the DSW semi-annual sale today.
Betz and I are going to be talking about 3 games this week that you can have some confidence in. So let's go.
Stack Attack.
We've been doing this show for a long time together now. And whenever we preview games together, I usually have like just a ton of confidence. Like, oh man, I've looked at these games 30 different ways. And I wrote the pace of play article for these games because I feel confident in them. And yet, we could get to Saturday and there might be a different conversation. It's humbling.
Yeah. You got to keep your head on the swivel out there.
I don't know. People expect a lot out of us. They just have a lot of thoughts about like, hey man, Borg Betz, they're really on their game. Like the first thought that people could have listening to this podcast in 2026 is like, those guys are idiots. These guys aren't even playing in any of these games. Like their coach told us. So
if someone tunes in for their first ever episode for this one, I'm not listening to these guys again. These guys are freaking idiots.
Like, imagine if we recorded this before the Eagles news. We're like, all right, so like Hurts. Yeah, you can have confidence in Hurts. No, Tanner McKee. All right, the first game we're going to talk about are two teams that don't really have anything to play for, and yet the total's at 51.5. The Dallas Cowboys, 7-8-1, against the New York Giants, who are 3-13, who last week proved that they said, hey, now's the time we're going to win. This is the week with the number one pick. So it's Jerry's boys and the Giants, who are, one of the worst teams in the league record-wise. The reason why we care about Cowboys games is because they just keep giving us the goodness that we want. I mean, 58 combined points per game is number one in the NFL. That's awesome. They run the most offensive plays per game in the NFL. And then, despite the fact that Giants have only 3 wins, overall, it's been a pretty fun year for DFS when you think about Jackson Dart games. You think about that game against the Broncos where it was like, oh man, they lost, but that gave us a ton of goodness. Wan'Dale Robinson, 1,000-yard man. Good, great stuff.
Wan'Dale was on, I know, the DK Best Ball Millie winner lineup. So Wan'Dale's actually been very, very good this year, like, on all honesty. And do you remember in training camp, there was a ton of like, they want to use him more downfield this year. And we were like, okay, yeah, because we haven't seen that at all. And they kind of are too. They're still giving him some of the easy button stuff, but also using him down the field. So I like Wan'Dale this week if he's healthy. He was not at practice Wednesday, if I'm reading that correctly. Was that right, Kyle?
Yes.
So we'll monitor him, but assuming he's good to go, he's an awesome value on FanDuel. I think he's in play for cash. He's 6,300 there. Honestly, I like Jackson Dart this week a ton too. Think about motivation on their side. Like, the Giants themselves would love to lose this game and just kind of ensure they have the best pick possible. But if I'm Jackson Dart, I'm like, I'm not letting you guys take my backup or take my replacement here. Don't even give them the option. Like, win this game and put yourself in a position where you're not going to draft one of the top 2 quarterbacks in this class. So I like Jackson Dart quite a bit here. We saw him scramble a bunch last week in a good matchup. The Cowboys are obviously a great matchup, so I like him with Wan'Dale. I really like Darius Slayton as well this week. I played him last week as leverage off of Trey Tucker at basically the same price. Didn't really work out from a box score perspective, but we know what he can do. 1 or 2 downfield passes, and the Cowboys have given up big plays in the pass game all season. So I really, really like for tournaments Darius Slayton this week, especially if Theo Johnson is out.
That is so funny because as I was writing up this game, you and I have not discussed our takes, but I wrote up Darius Slayton, one, because the Lions have allowed the second most fantasy points above expectation to outside wide receivers. So it's a great matchup.
But they're playing the Cowboys.
Oh.
You said the Lions.
Dang it. No, sorry. That's the next matchup. Sorry. No. 2, also because I think the way that the public will see Wan'Dale Robinson is that they will see what he has done, see what he just accomplished, and then want to go there as the easy stacking partner. But I think Slayton is the better pivot in this game to be able to go that direction. I mean, we've talked all year about Dallas, explosive plays. It also feels like Darius Slayton should be one of those Week 18 boys.
He is. I'm telling you, every December, he has at least one ceiling game. Like, go back the last 2 or 3 years, he just pops up for a random big game late in the year. So this could be it. Dude,
and when we were talking about Wan'Dale, I was like, man, I remember on our podcast this summer trashing Wan'Dale. I'd be like, dude, I'll never click the button for him.
When we did the live draft, I believe you said I'd rather die.
And you know what's funny? I did pick him on that team. I picked Wan'Dale Robinson somehow on that team. And I'm showing you the screenshots right now. My team wiped the floor, and Wan'Dale was actually a pretty big contributor. I mean, I think I won by 300 points in our league. But just shout out to Wan'Dale, best ball champion 2025. The other years, not so much.
I think he's a really good player. I think he has a specific role on the offense and in the NFL, but I think he's very good for what they ask him to do.
So if you're stacking up this game, is it just a Jackson Dart skinny stack, and then you're figuring out if it's Malik Davis on the other side or if it's picking one of the Dallas wide receivers?
I think that's how I'll play it, yeah. I mean, you could also throw in, if you just wanted to go super cheap in this game and spend up elsewhere, play Dart to Slayton with Schoonman on the other side. That seems interesting to me. You're spending nothing on your lineup to do that. So I'm interested in that. I also think there is a huge ceiling here if the Cowboys play it straight up, which it's kind of uncertain. We know Dak's going to start, which we presume that means all the wide receivers are going to start. But Jerry Jones has kind of hinted at, we don't know how much he'll play and we're not going to tell you. Jerry, for the love, dude, it's week 18. You're out of the playoffs. There's no competitive advantage here. stop it. But even Brian Schottenheimer on Wednesday's presser kind of said, like, paraphrasing, but like, we'll see how the game goes and we'll decide from there. So there's volatility here. And if there's low roster percentage on the Cowboys receivers because of that, I think it's a good spot to take advantage of in tournaments and just hope they play it mostly straight up. And if they do, obviously against the Giants, you could see a huge game from CD or Pickens. I will say I'm not interested in playing Dak doubles this week just because the price, like on FanDuel, Dak is 8,300, CD is 9K, Pickens is 8,800. Like, it's almost just cost prohibitive. So for me, it's more playing it through the dart side and then just pick one guy on the other side.
I do think Tyrone Tracy, maybe it's more of a FanDuel play, is interesting in this game. Dallas has given up the highest explosive rush rate in the NFL. He also feels like one of those players that they will just give a ton of run in Week 18. So if you wanted to play, if you didn't want to play dart because you think there's other quarterback options on the slate, Tanner McKee, whatever, the cheaper options, and you wanted to play just a correlation play of Tracy and, Dallas wide receiver, I'm totally fine with that too.
Yeah, there is also, I will say, some motivation for Dak here. He currently leads the league in passing. Stafford is right on his heels. Goff, I think Goff could catch him if they play it straight up and go crazy, and Dak only plays a half or something. So I don't know how much that matters to them, but I'll tell you what, Kyle, it matters to me.
Do you think it matters to Dak? Because I've seen those tweets that say a Dallas quarterback has never led the league in passing yardage. Do you think Dak cares about that?
That does feel like something the Cowboys would care about and hang the banner for this year, But
Jerry would bring that up.
Seriously, they probably would. I know a lot of people in Discord are also holding this ticket. We have 12-1 on Dak to lead the league in passing from this summer. So please, Cowboys, just play it straight up. Let Dak cook, and we'll all be very happy.
That would be a fun article to write. Gosh, I always do this to myself. Of lame, milestones that a team won that they would probably bring up in a meeting to some of their season ticket holders, because that's what it would be. It would be Dak led the league in passing yardage, or the Jets are we didn't have an interception the whole year.
They have to get one this week. Come on.
Did you see opposing quarterbacks against the Jets this year? Their touchdown to interception ratio 33-0.
That's crazy, man. They are so bad. It is hard to even put into words.
As you called them earlier, the friggin' Jets.
That's the friggin' Jets, man. They have no direction. They don't have a quarterback. They don't have a defense. They got draft picks. And they got Aaron Glenn.
We used to think that they had a direction because they kind of had a defense.
You know what happened?
A year or two ago.
Robert Saleh was kind of hired as a defensive guy. And they had a good roster defensively. And then they fired him after week 5 or something. And their defense went straight downhill. And they hired Aaron Glenn, who's a defensive-minded guy. And they're terrible.
We have a lot of conversations, which will be a lot of good off-season talk about how you build teams, coaching staffs, all that stuff. But what we've kind of found is that if you bring in a defensive-minded guy, not only do they have to hit on their offensive coordinator, who has to be usually some up-and-comer, that's, not a big name. Then if they're really, really good, they get poached by somebody else. So the Jets basically tried to thread the needle of defensive head coach with a young offensive coordinator, Tanner Engstrand, and not have a quarterback. And then also, let's not get any other pass-catching weapons other than Garrett Wilson. It was just not going to work. So I'm assuming that Aaron Glenn is not back. But you know what? They don't do rational things on this team.
There's been some rumblings that actually there's a vote of confidence in the building that they will let him run it back this year.
What stat did he show them?
I don't know, man.
Okay.
I don't know.
New goal for myself. I'm going to write it down right here. Find a category where the Jets lead the league in something good.
All right. See what you can do on that.
I bet. Do you think that's possible? Just guessing right now.
No.
I don't think so either. I bet I could bend a stat for almost any other team. I don't think I could do one for the Jets.
New challenge for you in the new year.
Yes. All right. Any other takes on this game? The line's at 3.5.
Real quick before we go from the Jets. I'm looking at Tanner Engstrand's career history. Okay, he comes from Detroit, right? Pass game coordinator, tight ends coach, quality control assistant, whatever that means.
Dude, that's a cool role.
The last time he called plays was for the DC Defenders during the COVID year in the XFL or whatever that league was at the time. And they hired him to call plays. Completely unserious operation. All right, move on. I'm done.
Poor guy.
I'm done.
Him and his family.
And I'm pretty sure we have to move on. I'm pretty sure they were like bottom 3 in like yards and scoring that season as well for the DC Defenders.
How many teams were in that league?
Like 8?
They were in the bottom 3, but they were in the top 8. That's how his resume was. We were in the top 8. That's what he tried to share. This is good stuff here. Next game we're going to talk about is the Lions, speaking of, and the Bears. The Bears are 3-point home favorites. The over-under is 50.5. You can't really use week 2, which is when these two teams played, as any sort of template. The Lions crushed. I remember we took them for our survivor pool, pour one out for that experience we had. But they won 52-21. And I remember our rationale behind the scenes, we're running the numbers. We're like, dude, they're the freaking Lions. They're going to take care of business. You look at this one and you go, in this game, the Bears have a lot to play for. You know, the Lions don't have anything, but Dan Campbell doesn't care about that. This feels like one of those games where Dan Campbell's like, let's ruin Ben Johnson's year. Let's ruin their seeding. Let's go out on top. Let's get above 500. And yet, what Dan Campbell doesn't realize, it would actually be better if he got a 4th-place schedule and lost this game.
It would be. But yeah, like we said, we think they play it straight up. Now, all that to say, this team has so many injuries. Even if they do play it straight up, this is not currently a great football team for the Lions. We saw that obviously on Christmas, and it's been a struggle down the stretch here. They have so many offensive line injuries. Their defensive backfield is completely decimated by injury. Amon-Ra St. Brown is dealing with injury. You know, I think that's great that they want to try to win this game and knock off a division rival and all those things. And for DFS, I hope they do and kind of push the Bears here, because I think this is an unbelievable spot for Caleb Williams. And I really, really, really want to be heavy invested into Chicago this week. They have motivation to win this game and lock up the 2 seed. The other thing is, like, if I'm Ben Johnson and we got embarrassed in week 2, Dan Campbell hung 52 points on them. If I'm Ben Johnson, I'm saying, okay, watch this. Your defense is completely destroyed right now. Let's go get Caleb the first 4,000-yard season a Bears quarterback has ever had. Let's actually go do that. And I could see them hanging it on him here if they're able to. So I think there's a huge ceiling on Chicago this week. I love them in this spot. They're cheap too. Like, Caleb is too cheap. I think DeAndre Swift is way too cheap, especially on FanDuel. We're still waiting on Luther Burden's injury, but we already talked about Mr. Loveland. So I really, really like Bears this week. I think this is a good spot for them.
Big Swift guy, huh?
I've always been. Eagle legend.
Yeah. So we're still, like, in the back of my mind is that Bears and 49ers game we saw on Sunday night, which was awesome. That was the Bears' highest pass rate over expectation of the entire year, plus 9.6%. I mean, just a lot of the year, it's kind of like what they did with Trevor Lawrence. It's like, let's protect ourselves from our quarterback. Let's run the ball nonstop. And they kind of just let him let loose, but that was also the product of the game environment, right? Just this kind of back and forth affair. And we know the Lions can do that. So I do like that, where you look at this game and you're like, I don't really have to pay that much other than the expensive Gibbs or Amon-Ra side of this game. We don't really know roster percentages right now. We are stuck in the past, and you will know in the future if you look at the optimizer and look at everything we have in there. Luther Burden will get clicked a ton at 5,300 if he's off the injury report and good to go, just because he's the young hotness. I cannot tell you how many Bears fans messaged me in the last day because I tweeted out something nice about Luther Burden, and they were just like, yes, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to us. And it's like, oh, I thought you guys are usually mad about everything because everyone thinks they're against you. But Luther Burden's going to get clicked. Colson Loveland's going to get clicked a ton. Do you think Swift does fall through the cracks?
Hard to say. I think the game environment could prop him up a little bit, but I think relative to like the either spend way down or spend up for someone like Bijan, I think he could be held in check is how I'd say it. And the other thing too with the Bears backfield is neither guy ever projects incredibly well because we do have to split work between him and Monangai, but understand there's ceiling outcomes here because of the injuries defensively for the Lions that you could still see him pop up for a bit of a ceiling performance here. And also, Kyle, could you ever forget this is a classic revenge game for Swift?
Oh, he could never. Revenge for everybody in this game with Ben Johnson at play.
Everyone hates everyone in this game.
They probably do. And good for Bears fans and Bears, the team in general, to be able to win the division. I'm sure Lions fans are like, we've missed our window of when it was when they were supposed to advance in the NFC. I did want to bring this up because the Lions, we've previewed a lot of their matchups this year. They've always been the most man-heavy coverage unit in the entire NFL. So it's usually like 44% of the time you're seeing man coverage. The last 2 weeks, 18 and 20%. And a lot of that's the injuries, right? The Terrion Arnold, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph. They just had so many injuries, like you pointed out. They've shifted it. So a lot of the metrics you use for the passing game, I'm just throwing out. And I'm also throwing out that game in week 2, other than just this was the narrative at play of, Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson. So I'm approaching this game as the Bears passing attack is alive and they figured out something, and they figured out something with Caleb Williams. So a Caleb double stack, and then on the other side, you're figuring out who you want to bring it back with.
Yep, that's how I'll play it too.
What about Gibbs? It's been a letdown the last couple weeks, but I still think he has just as good a ceiling as anybody on this slate.
Yeah, I think for me, if I'm playing cash on the slate, I would probably not play Gibbs just because I don't know what percentage you would put it at, but I think there's a possibility that if the game does happen to just randomly get out of hand or something like that, it's like, look, this guy is our offense. Let's not do anything stupid here in the fourth quarter. But at the same time, Dan Campbell is a sicko, right? Like I could legit see Gibbs getting 24 touches in a meaningless game just to try to stick it to the Bears. And if that happens, then yes, the ceiling is obviously there in this matchup. So I do like Gibbs quite a bit. And I think that's one way to play this game too, is just to stack Caleb with somebody like Loveland for cheap, and then you have the money to get up to Gibbs. So I'm definitely interested in that.
The Bears defense is such a volatile group where the headline is all the turnovers they forced. You saw the other side of it against the 49ers because they've been bottom 5 in yards per play the entire season. So I think you can have confidence in Lions players in the Lions passing game here if you want to go that direction. I just think Goff's not exactly cheap for somebody that's not going to run. Obviously, it wasn't fun to see 3 fumbles lost this past week. I mean, it's just egregious stuff. But if you wanted to just play a Caleb double stack and even have 2 Lions options in there, that's fine. I think Tesla is a really fun dart throw. He's on the field a ton. He's only been targeted on 10% of his routes this year. So they've morphed into 11 personnel since Laporta got hurt. And yet it's like you're asking for him to catch a touchdown on like 2 targets.
Unless Amon-Ra's out, in which case
yes.
I think he's a good play.
Yeah, and we'll wait on that information later on in the week. I'll take the Lions plus a 3.
There's no way the Bears aren't hanging 27 points on Detroit. There's no way. Kyle, come on.
Wait, there's no way they are, or there's no way they don't?
There's no way they don't.
Wow. I didn't know you were such a Bears guy.
Bear down, baby. Love the Bears. Except for if they play the Eagles in the playoffs. Otherwise, I love the Bears.
Wouldn't you say that Caleb Williams frightens you?
Like in a bad way?
Yes, in a bad way, play to play.
Just the volatility?
Yes.
That's the thing about the quarterbacks in this year's playoffs, right? Like, Darnold could implode any moment. I think Caleb could have a boneheaded play any moment. Bo Nix scares the crap out of me every time he drops back. Like, there's a lot of that this year in the playoffs. So I think the playoffs are going to be so fun this year.
And even though we love Drake May, there are games where he has multiple turnovers.
Takes a lot of sacks too.
Yeah. It's an interesting year this year. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
DSW's semi-annual sale is back. Take 50% off all clearance shoes in stores for a limited time. Literally every single clearance item at your designer shoe warehouse store is on sale right now. Sneakers, boots, dress shoes. If they're on the clearance racks, they're 50% off. So what are you waiting for? Don't sleep on these savings. Get to DSW ASAP. It's haul or nothing, people. Shop the DSW semi-annual sale today.
One more game we're going to preview here is the Tennessee Titans. I can't remember if we've talked about them the entire season.
I don't
Is
think
there any
so.
chance we previewed them?
I doubt it. Because their team total is always like 14 points.
Were they in any primetime games? Like a Thursday game? I'm assuming not really.
Maybe. I don't think so, though.
No one has any memory of this team this year.
They were just there for the vibes.
I did see a press conference with their offensive coordinator, Nicholas Holtz. And the way that his press conference was going, it was basically like him like doing an exit interview of like, all right, I know I'm not going to be around this next year. Essentially like just thanking everybody. But Titans at the Jaguars. Jaguars are 12-4. They're probably going to be the 3 seed. Okay, because ahead of those Patriots and Broncos, technically they have a shot to climb higher if they wanted to, if they win, and there's some other losses. But the Jaguars are 12.5-point home favorites, 47.5 over under. Really just leaning into the Jaguars here and saying, hey, you know what? They rank 4th in offensive plays per game, and since their bye, they are 6th in EPA per play. So it's just a good offense. The target share is kind of flat. That's the hardest part, I think, for me. Like over the last 6 weeks, Jacoby Myers is at 23%, Parker Washington 20%, BTJ 16%, Strange 16%. It's like nobody's commanding this 27+% target share where you feel super, super confident. So how would you stack up Trevor Lawrence?
I think it's kind of the same as last week from a projection and roster percentage standpoint. I think Jacoby will project as the best cash and point per dollar play. But I really think Brian Thomas Jr. is an awesome pivot at basically the same price. I made that decision last week, and actually neither guy really got there. It was Parker Washington, which I still think you can play because the ceiling has been there. He's been awesome the last couple of weeks. And then Bretton Strange is also a really cheap stacking partner who I think he'll be played a decent clip this week, but compared to guys like Colston Loveland or some of the other cheap guys, he may get lost in the shuffle a little bit. So I really like Brian Thomas Jr. as a pivot, and I really like Bretton Strange as a pivot for tournaments.
So then would you because I'm fine with whatever chalkiness Jacoby Myers is. I know we didn't get the ceiling outcome last week, but if it's Trevor Lawrence, Jacoby, and then you're picking one of BTJ or Strange, like that's how I would do it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Or Washington.
And we talked about how the Titans have kind of morphed into a pass funnel. So this is it sets up really, really well there. We're still waiting on news about Baishal Tutin and his fingy. He hurt his fingy.
It hurt, man. Don't make fun of him. It hurt.
He's one of your dudes.
Yeah, I did like Baishal Tutin.
You liked him a lot in best ball, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I liked anybody here for best ball.
You were drafting Brian Thomas Jr. We all were.
No, I wasn't.
Yes, you were.
No, he was behind it all. You can look at my rankings. Check out the website, fantasyfootballers.com.
You can look at my rankings.
Dude, that 1-2 turn, man, I was just feeling a little fishy.
Actually, you know who I was into in best ball? I liked Parker Washington in the 20th round on DraftKings. And you laughed at me, Kyle. You were like, dude, there's no way. There's no way. And I was like,
I would have said nice. No, I would have said nice things about Parker Washington.
I think my analysis was like, I don't know, he was good for a game or two last year. Maybe he pops up. So, I love best ball, man. Round 20, call it your shot, guys. It's so fun. But I think the take home is like we expect points from the Jaguars.
Yes.
These guys are all in play. We didn't even talk about Travis Etienne for cash. I think you can play Travis Etienne in cash games too.
Sure. Why not? You could do it.
Play the Jags.
Play the Jags. Do you need a Titan on the other side?
You don't, but I will say their prices are pretty intriguing if you did want to go game stack here. Pour one out for our boy Van Jefferson, who not only destroyed the prop you took an under on last week.
Just crushed me.
He also is out now with injury.
And he's out of the league after this year? Is that what you said?
Those weren't my words. There's a place for guys like Van Jefferson in the NFL. But my point there is I think you'll see routes really condensed with Chimere Dike and Alec Ayamanor, who ran 40 of 46 routes last week. So both guys are cheap. If you just want to throw them back onto your roster as a game stack here, that would make a lot of sense to me. And Cam Moore's been playing a lot better recently too, so I like it.
Yeah, we talked about that on Tuesday's episode. Do you know who leads the team in target share this year?
I have no idea.
It's Ayamanor.
Okay.
And it's not something to brag about. It's another one of those things that they're going to put on the press releases. This rookie led the team in target share at 17%.
Not great.
I know. You could find some narrative stuff here with Tony Pollard. He's 66 rushing yards away from earning $250K. That's nice. Turned around his season. Good for him. He's going to get cut this offseason.
Maybe.
But maybe I'm stupid, but I would love to save $7 million.
No, I'm not saying they shouldn't. I think from a team building perspective, it makes all the sense in the world, but NFL franchises do silly things sometimes.
What do I know? I'm just a guy talking to another guy, just a dude being a dude.
Just a guy charting yards route run in February.
Oh, there's some good stuff out there, man. What do you think about the line? 12.5.
Seems fishy, doesn't it? Like in your head, you're like, oh, the Jags are obviously going to smash. I'm going to take the Titans.
And so am I.
Keep it within 13. Keep it close. Let's go Cam Ward.
Over last month, it's been pretty nice.
Slate Breaker of the Week.
All right, so this is not easy this early in the week of saying who a slate breaker is going to be. But I'm just going to say I think the price does not match up with the role that Colston Loveland has in the slot. Okay.
Kyle, you turd.
Is that who yours is?
I was going to say Colston Loveland.
Okay, good. We didn't reveal it. Let's just go together then.
No, I have another one. Go ahead, though, on Loveland.
No, the thing about pricing and where he's at, so 3,900, we talked about the game environment where it's at. We also talked about how the Lions have shifted their defense, so it's a lot of zone-based stuff. He's just set up to kind of, he's going to be able to command 7-8 targets easily, I think, in this game. Now, we have to wait on some injury news for, the rest of the team, but I just think Colston Loveland I want him to be one of those players I'm overweight this week that probably from cash to tournaments, you'd be like, oh, I need to pivot here. I don't think you need to pivot. I just think you need to be overweight.
I like that call. I'm going to give two options here. One, spend up guy that I feel pretty good about, and then a cheap guy that I think is fun. I really like Nico this week, 7K. I think he'll be somewhat popular, but you get the dome environment. Last week we saw Stroud hit some huge plays, but it was kind of fluky to the rookies, Knoll and Higgins. Nico, I think, is due this week for a huge game against a struggling Colts secondary, so I like him a lot. And then I'm going way down to a former first-round pick in a massive revenge game. Let's go Jahan Dotson, 3,800.
Whoa.
I think he's pretty much an every down player in this game. I think there's a chance we could see something similar to last year where we see 8 to 11-ish targets. I think Jahan Dotson's a pretty good play this week.
I love it. I'm willing to play him. I'm willing to even play him on my dynasty roster and just sit there and just hope that he eventually becomes something. So what stinks is that I don't feel so confident to call him a slate breaker, though.
No, I know. That's why he's in this section, but that's why the caveat was one expensive guy, one cheap guy that I think could outperform his salary.
So if he goes off, you get so much credit.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And if he does nothing, you say, oh, it was week 18.
It was week 18 and it was a bonus pick.
Yeah, totally.
Prop it like it's hot.
All right, every single week we have our props article on the website. We'll even be going throughout the NFL playoffs. So we're still going to be propping it like it's hot. This segment has been very kind to us all year long, except for when Van Jefferson decided to kick me in the cojones last week on his way out. That was his way of retiring from the NFL. I will be taking Aaron Rodgers under 208.5 passing yards. No DK. Calvin Austin's questionable. No Big Darnell, who broke his arm, man. That's sad. How does he break his arm, by the way?
A lot of weight falling on that arm. That is a massive human being.
Are you excited about seeing a must-win game where Aaron Rodgers is throwing to MVS, Scotty Miller, and Adam Thielen?
I was thinking about this game, right? Because it's going to be must-watch TV, Sunday Night Football. You win, you're in. If you lose, you're out. We think Lamar's going to play, so that helps. But, was last week the most unserious game plan you've ever seen in the NFL? Against the Browns? And you're throwing go balls to friggin' Scotty Miller? Just win the game last week, against the Browns. So it's such a frustrating team. Tomlin is going to pop up here for a surprising performance is what it feels like. Like after last week, it was so bad to watch. The game was absolutely terrible. And now you have this spot where it's like, the Steelers, no DK, Calvin Austin, Lamar's going to play. Like, I don't know, man. I think the Ravens are going to win this one. And it's just one of those like random gross games where Mike Tomlin kind of puffs his chest and they win it like 17-14 or something like that. Doesn't it feel like that to you? It
feels like one of those pieces I could start writing right now. Like, Mike Tomlin just always finds a way.
Yeah, exactly.
He found guys off the scrap heap like MVS who went for, 2 for 77 in a score.
Exactly. That's how I feel about it too. But man, it's just last week was so bad.
Yeah, and the way that the Ravens defense is built, I don't see Aaron Rodgers getting to this. So it's under 208.5 passing yards.
Let's go with an over, Kyle, for week 18. No, I'm just kidding. Sam Darnold will take the Saturday game. No questions here about motivation. No questions about playing time. Win, and you get the 1 seed for Seattle and San Francisco. So over 238.5 for Sam Darnold. He's been over in 10 of 16 games this year. Actually 7 of 8 on the road. Really, though, this is just about the matchup. He's number 1 in the league in yards per pass attempt when not under pressure. We've been talking about this for pretty much 2.5 months now. San Francisco cannot rush the passer. They have one of the lowest sack rates in the league, given all of their injuries defensively. So this is a nice spot here for Sam Darnold to, I think, complete a couple of long passes to JSN, get us over this 238.5 mark.
I saw some people in our Discord that weren't the happiest when they saw Sam Darnold over. Well, over in general, they're not happy. But I love this, man. It's like San Francisco, you just saw them against Chicago. This team is going to let him sit in a clean pocket the entire game. And Darnold does have games where he goes for it, and this is must-win territory.
Yeah, must-win game. If you have plans this weekend and you can only watch like a little bit of football, like this game is the one that I'm circling.
All right, can I give a bonus? Like you said earlier, if it's a bonus, then it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, sure.
Was the Van Jefferson one a bonus last week? I can't remember. No one remembers.
You said it was a lock, so.
Okay, well, this one might be a lock. It's Cam Ward under 21.5 completions. He's been under this in 4 straight. Could he get there based on volume? Sure. But completion percentage against the Jaguars is not something that I see in the cards. They are 6th in EPA per pass on the season. So under 21.5 completions for Cam Ward. Bets. This was the final episode of the 2025 regular season, but we are now in 2026. So do you feel like a new man?
I do.
Good. Sign everyone off.
Last time for the 2025 regular season. What a show, man. This was fun. Good luck to everybody out there this weekend. Remember, stay plugged into the news, the best plays on Saturday, all that good stuff. We'll have you covered as we get more information on starters, rest, all that sort of stuff. And we're back next Friday to preview Wildcard Weekend. We'll see you then. Have a great week.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com.